you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blissett and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
Welcome back. Day 2 of Women in HVACR. I'm sitting next to Tersh, and today we have Stephanie Postell, from Anchor Heating and Air, co-owner of Anchor Heating and Air. Instead of me telling your story, Stephanie, you want to introduce yourself so that way listeners know who you are?
Sure. I am the co-owner and chief operating officer of Anchor Heating and Air in Charleston, South Carolina. I've been in the industry about 10 years. Was a business owner prior to that, and then was a personal trainer for a few minutes.
That's cool.
I had a customer and his wife, actually, that were my clients, and they owned a heating and air company. And I was offered a position in HVAC, and I said, "What is that?"
What does that stand for?
Right?
What do you do?
Same.
But found out, obviously, very quickly what it was all about, and started in the industry doing business development. I helped with he had joined a best practices group, and so I came in to help implement that in the company, but ended up being operations.
That's a major part of those best practice groups is like there's so much information out there, but if you don't implement it, it's garbage.
Well, it's the same thing with coming to an event like this. Right? You get all these breakouts and stuff like that, and you go back with pages of notes or conversations you've had networking, and it's like, where do I start?
Right, right. That's why they get smart and tell you to pick one thing, right, and go back and do that one thing. But anyway, 7 great years there. Really learned a lot, grew a really big company, and then left there. Started another company with a partner. Didn't work out very well, but we moved on from that, and we opened Anchor last December, and it's been awesome. Really a great experience, and it's nice being 100% in there.
Yeah. So you were in Charleston the whole time?
Yes. My whole life, actually.
Oh, okay. Right down the street from me.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'll have to come check you out sometime.
Yes.
So tell us, we're going to talk a little bit about women in HVAC and your daughter. She's in the truck doing ride-alongs. That's really exciting. And then also some pain points with being a business owner, what it's like. Because some people don't realize what it's like being a business owner. Maybe they're a technician thinking about starting their own business and kind of have questions, or someone might be going through the same thing that you've gone through and would appreciate knowing that they're not the only one out there. Because when we do go through those things, we all feel like it's me versus the world, you know.
That weight on your shoulders.
It's crazy. Yeah. We got sued a couple of years back, and we were sued by a con artist, and we thought we had dotted our I's, crossed our T's.
Don't dot your T's.
P's and Q's. Yeah, we were good. But he was a con artist. He knew what to look for on our forms and stuff, and so he took complete advantage of the system. But see, our insurance company, they wanted to pay for this guy's flooring. I'm gonna really briefing the story up a little bit, but he declined a float switch. The drain line itself went into a hub. The hub backed up, not the actual drain line that we cleared. And he said the house was empty for a month. It was a rental house, and it wasn't. And he said all the floors in the downstairs were completely ruined. And in fact, they weren't. Just the ones underneath the air conditioning unit were messed up. And so he wanted. Then his argument was that they didn't match new floors versus the old floors. So he needed all new floors, and it was going to be $5,500, I think, is what he was suing us for. And the insurance company was like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay that all day long." Oh yeah, and Julie and I were like, "No, absolutely not. This is the guy. It's a con artist. He knew what he was doing. He wanted new floors, and it was a rental property, and he didn't want it was a turn during the turn process. He didn't want to pay for that, and so Julie actually went to court with the mediator, and she was like, we ain't paying that much." She negotiated them down to like $1,000, and he was like, that's what I paid out of pocket. He finally showed his like Home Depot receipt, and it was like $1,000, and you're like, we'll pay that. And then
well,
so,
but in an effort, right, to save our reputation,
yeah,
because we're in the service industry, right? So sometimes you just have to. Sometimes you will do those kinds of things, and a lot of times it's just not right. But our reputations are so important, and we want to be known for doing the right thing.
That's so true, to a fault.
It is.
And it's ridiculous, because especially when somebody like that takes advantage of it, and they find out that you'll do it,
right?
And it's like,
You can get used to just saying yes, putting your head down, be like, well, we'll get through it.
Yeah.
We'll get through. We'll get to the next one and move on. But it's definitely something. At some point, you got to put your foot in the ground.
Well, I think that is part of it. I mean, with my situation, with the company before, there's a lot more to those layers, and the fact that there's still some use of my husband's license after us not being there for a long time, their whole year.
Wow.
And so
now, how does that work in South Carolina? Because Georgia, you're supposed to register one license for one company, and you're not supposed to use it for multiple companies.
Right, and it's the same thing in South Carolina, but it was not. He holds the license, but it was never registered to that company.
Yeah. Okay.
And so when we put it on our new company, there was no red flag to say, well, it was on the other company.
So they just flying under the radar.
Flying under the radar, because when they went to get a new business license, his license was already on there, so they just renewed it. And so that's it's on the side of the trucks. And so all of that, to your point, at some point, you do have to go after that. You can't just let it keep happening.
Yeah, because if they do, if the other company, and that's crazy it's wild that you can put someone else's license on your van, because then if something bad happens, then they're going to go after that license number there, and then it's on you to prove that it's not your. Yeah, that's crazy. That's ridiculous.
To answer the other part of your question, they have been charged with operating without a license.
Oh, really?
Sometimes through the LLR. And if you don't stop,
what is LLR?
The labor and licensing board.
Okay.
So they have to go in front of the residential builders.
Get somebody else to do it.
Well, we see that stuff all the time. Like I see you're like, oh yeah, we hired a plumber. We're using his license. He's not the owner of the company. Doesn't have a stake in the company, and they're using his license. Some states you're allowed to do that, and then some states, I think in Georgia you can do that as long as they attach their license to your company. And then if they leave, you have a certain amount. You have a grace period of time for them to get a new person. But it's still tricky, and because like in New Jersey, I know for a fact in New Jersey they have to be like an owner. So some people will like make an LLC company that has a minority ownership in the company, and it's like, wow, there's always a lot of workarounds. Yeah.
Well, but that your license is your livelihood. So,
yeah.
Even if we could prove that he didn't have anything to do with whatever job,
still going to hold you up.
It's still going to cost us money to prove that it wasn't. So yeah, there's a lot to that, and I just think at some point you've got to fight it. You can't. The insurance company can't just write the check every time.
Exactly.
Because it just keeps making everything more expensive.
Yeah.
And we aren't responsible.
I don't want the claims it's constant claims on the account, and I don't know if it's claim number amounts plus the dollar amount paid out, or if it's just a claim amount, or if it's a dollar amount paid out. But I do know that one's paid a lot less than what the insurance people, they left just thinking they got a massive win because they were planning on paying the $5,000. So, so share, like, what would you share, like, that you're willing to share, that you're comfortable sharing? What's your biggest pain point that you've ever had to deal with?
I think knowing your numbers.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't know your numbers, that makes it very
How well do you need to know them? Because like Leslie and Cassie were on the show yesterday, and we were talking a little bit about, like, some people will like spit off numbers and you're like, you probably
It's like
just look at
photographic
those.
memory. They literally don't forget them. They do them every single day.
Either it's that or they're like full of shit.
Yeah.
And so
I would probably go with the second rather than the first. You know, I feel like I do a lot of stuff by gut instinct, and I've done it for a long time, but I could always know them better.
Yeah.
But, and the thing is now, even if you do know them, they are changing so rapidly.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because prices have gone up, you know, when you're looking at stuff like that.
It's not like once a year you get your 10% increase.
Right.
It's
not anymore. It used to be like
Yeah.
every January you'd be like, okay, 6 to 10%, and then, but now it's literally like 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year.
And especially parts are crazy. I mean, there's so many variables now, right? I mean, everything stayed pretty static, but the way it changes. So I think that part, labor's changed a ton because you're trying to keep up. Whether it's inflation and how expensive everything is, or you're just trying to keep a great team, you want to pay people the right way, but you've got to charge for that. So then you've got to deliver the service that goes along with that. It's not like
you can't just charge more because you're paying more. You have to provide better service at the same time.
Right.
It's a challenge
Well,
because
I was told at Profit Rock that I can just raise my prices.
Oh, really? I don't think that's accurate.
That is not.
I was sitting in the room and I heard it from a couple individuals. You just raise your prices.
However, you can. There is some truth to that. If you're not
well, if you're underpriced,
that's right.
Absolutely. Like you're providing more value than you're actually charging the customer. But at
so
some point,
what? So I agree with this comment completely. What would you say to the fact that we go to let me think of a fast food joint, Wendy's. So I went to Wendy's last weekend, and I got a double cheeseburger with bacon, no fries, and a medium drink, and it was $13. They provide less service.
And I'll be honest, Wendy's is usually pretty slow.
It was slow, but
it's pretty slow.
But it was, I mean, let's be honest, that was $6, maybe $7 a couple of years ago.
That's why people pay $30 for DoorDash.
And but how do they justify? They didn't provide anything extra. They just marked the prices up. And if we did something like that, oh no, we're gonna have to figure this out.
Well, and I think we have to do a better job of telling people what a great job we do. Right?
That's true. But people hate tooting their horn.
They do.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, most people don't use HVAC very often, right? Either you came up knowing that it's important to do maintenance, or you knew and you had to do something recently. But a lot of people don't really know that value. So when we come in to quote something, or we come in to make a diagnosis, and you don't have anybody else to compare it to, then it's difficult, especially in quoting, right? Because when you come in for a replacement, my presentation and this person's presentation may be the same. However, the product, I promise you, is not. But they will never know. They'll never know. They will leave the other company with this amazing spider box of ductwork, and they'll be like, "What? It's amazing!" And you're like,
"That's garbage."
$2,000 more to get this nice one where your bedroom is cold or warm, and you just don't know. And unfortunately, 2 years later, we're back at that house because it didn't get done right,
still
or
uneven.
It was never connected. Their bills are still high, but we can show pictures, we can tell you can read Google, but you still have to work really hard to set yourself apart. And so what do you do in order to be able to do that, to say, this is why my price is more? And eventually I'm going to get it because they're going to call me back in 2 years and I'll get the
Yeah.
extra money that you should have spent up front. So,
The tough, like we were talking with Company Cam yesterday, and they brought up the fact that, you know, a lot of contractors don't really want to share pictures of their stuff, or they don't think that people want to see the pictures of their
I feel
stuff.
like, yeah, who wants to see a picture of a system hanging in the attic?
Right. But
Right?
right.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
that's the
Especially when you're researching it.
Well, here's the thing. So we're always looking for some way to set ourselves apart, right? So get my little set ourselves apart. But people don't want to do duct work. Companies don't, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Technicians hate it,
they do. But
especially in the South.
that's for sure. But we have a great crew that does duct work, and we use blue duct work. We use the JPL.
That's the
really
micro,
anti-microbial
yeah.
duct work. And when I talk to customers on the phone about it, I'm like, listen, it's going to be a work of art.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's blue. It sets us apart. We just got a job doing very little new construction,
Mhm.
but we have this builder who appreciates how we want to set ourselves apart. And you're going to see this work. And it's going to look amazing. And, you know, the straps are run under the insulation, and the mastic has a pretty line on it. And I think when you love it and you can get that across to somebody, and
They feel the
they
passion.
do, and
Yep.
he's like, oh, yeah, y'all definitely have to do this. We want to work with you, right? And so I think if you can get that across to a homeowner, maybe it helps them understand why the investment is a little bit more. But you are always going to get us when you call us. If there's something wrong, we're always going to come back and take care of you. And that's just how we're going to be. We're always going to be around. And I think as contractors, we just have to do a better job of setting ourselves apart.
But to your point, those things need to be there. Like, you can't just raise your price if you don't answer the phone.
Definitely not.
And if you don't get back to customers for 2 weeks, you can't raise your price. Like, you're not worth it.
That's right.
Mhm.
And it's because of the data and stuff we see. I know I
Mhm.
bring this up all the time, but there's a lot of missed phone calls, a lot of voice. Like, have a system in place so that way your customers can get a hold of you. Even if you include some automation in that, something, because if you want to raise your price, you have to provide it.
That's right.
That's why. I mean, honestly, if you went to Chick-fil-A, you got a $13, you got the same exact meal, and you paid $13. Let's say you paid $18 at Chick-fil-A, you're like, well, service is great.
Yeah.
Someone's right here to take my order. I felt like I'm taken care of. Like,
Mhm.
they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
different feeling.
Most of them. There's one in town that's new. They just can't figure it out.
Uh-oh.
They just can't figure it out. It's-
Yeah.
yeah. He is. He's gonna have to come do something because
They got to figure it
it's
out.
got a
Tersh
long
needs some
way.
good Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And everybody's. I think what it is it's right on the major interstate, and so people have been anticipating it because there's another one that's about a mile down the road once you get off the interstate, and that one was overloaded. But now this one's on the interstate, so people are just hitting it, and it's right next to Starbucks. So like hit Starbucks, drive through, hit the Chick-fil-A, Starbucks. Yeah. Yeah.
So, question for you. Change topics a little bit. We're at the Women in HVACR event. And you guys have a daughter that is,
She's 19.
she started driving the truck, right?
Well, that wasn't how it was supposed to start.
Okay.
Really?
We were growing very quickly, and I actually had another full-time job for the first 7 months of the year, and we needed help in the office. So to your point, we could be answering the phone, delivering the service that we needed to deliver. And David's daughter, my stepdaughter, Haley, was thinking about going to school and just didn't really feel like it was for her.
Mhm.
And so we said, well, we need help, and I need help in the office. So come on, work in the office with me, I'll train you. So she came in, she worked a couple days, I showed her everything. And my normal onboarding is you need to ride the truck, right? You need to see what's going
Yeah.
on out there in the field so that you can talk to customers about it, you can share the experience. And she rode the truck, and she never came back.
Yeah.
Never came back in the
Love
office. She loves it. And
That's awesome.
the real great part of it for us as family-owned business, right, is that her dad went into HVAC because Haley was on the web. And so it's a true full circle, right? And David has been installing for 20 years. That's his love. And now he's a business owner, and but he loves to be in the field, and he's great at install and dealing with the customers. And so now to have Haley with him, we've been doing a little series on TikTok because I finally got them to sit down and talk about being together in the truck. And it's really great just to hear them talk back and forth about it. But David's honest, and he said if she got there and she couldn't do it, and I didn't think it was going to be for her, he said I would have told her you need to go back in the office,
yeah.
right?
Well,
But
and
she loves it.
I love that you guys pushed for her to get in the truck and to see what it was
To try it out.
Totally.
I've talked to a few of the people here, and they've done the same thing with the office team, and because you don't know what people want. Just because someone's a female or a male, they may like different things.
That's right.
Well,
They
not
may
only
want to be in the
that,
office if they're supposed to be in the field and all that kind of stuff. And then
how
there's-
much more valuable is the office perception of the field if they've been in the field and they've experienced it? And then, like, when I do ride-alongs with technicians, we'll like fill out a form, and I'm like, "This is ridiculous. Like, why are we doing this?" And they're like, "Yeah, we've been telling you that for like 6 months now, Tersh. Why are we doing this? It's repetitive." Like, good point. I'm deleting it right now. I'm changing it right now. Yeah.
That's why David loved it on the weekends when he's on call. I mean, on call every weekend, but when he is, I ride with him because it does give me that perspective because I'm sitting in the office telling you all how this needs to go. And to your point, there's a form that doesn't close out when you do this or something like that, and you can see their pain points. The other side of that is I always have my new technicians sit in the office.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Because it's really important for you not to think I'm trying to ruin your life every day.
Or just
in the
goofing off
office.
all day.
Yeah.
Just
oh,
hanging
no,
out.
office lady's calling me again.
Right. It's huge. The other part of that, I think, is when you're in the office, there are ladies and gentlemen that are in CSRs and dispatch positions that talk about air handlers and condensers and don't know really what that even is.
Right.
They could tell you and diagnose most things over the phone, but they don't even know where the air handler is or what it looks like. Honestly, I really didn't for a long time either. But I think that's just the important part is just to connect it.
What makes you more confident too?
It does.
If you're in the office talking on the phone, but you've actually visually seen it and you see
Right.
all the ductwork connects to everything outside and all that stuff, it definitely makes a difference. When
That
you're talking
aha
about it.
moment.
Yeah.
It's awesome seeing when we have a CSR go out there, and we'll have them do the interplay learning training also, and they're like, "Oh yeah," or sit in on technical trainings with the technicians, and they're like, "Oh, that's a contactor.
That's what he was talking about.
That's the
last week.
capacitor. Okay, got it."
She's done a great job. She loves being hands-on. She can, wire units, she can put in thermostats, and it's a challenge.
How long has she been in the field now?
6 months.
Oh wow, she's picking up fast.
Definitely. But I think it helps to have a great teacher, right? And then
Yeah.
not only, or maybe in spite of it being your dad, or because it is your
Right.
dad, he was just a great teacher, and I think that's a big thing too. We try to throw these new technicians, male or female, out in the field without a good teacher.
Yeah.
Right? Because every lead installer is not a great teacher.
No.
They might be great installers, but that's about it. So
Yeah.
I think there's real benefit that she's been with him and she's gotten to see. We are a huge install company, as in we think that that's the foundation of everything. So if you know install, then as a technician, you're going to be better. You're going to be a better service technician. You're going to be a better maintenance technician because you know how the system actually is supposed to work.
Well, and if you get the install right, the rest is pretty easy.
That's right.
I mean, the problem is the install's wrong most of the time.
That's right. So I think that's definitely going to be a benefit to her because we anticipate her being in her own truck by the spring. So she'll be running maintenances for herself.
That's
So,
awesome.
so what I hear you say is her dad's not one of those dads that, what's the best way to say it? Hold the flashlight. Like if you can tell that
Actually
you've
wants
never
to
held a
teach her-
flashlight for your dad.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That it's
Yeah,
like
just watch-
wrenches
just
come
watch what I do
flying.
and learn.
Her dad's like, I need duct tape in the truck. It's on the third shelf behind the red wrench. And on your way back, pick up this and bring that. There are no trips where we don't do
Wasted
something
trips.
back and forth.
Man,
And
they talk about
that's-
inefficiency.
Oh.
Like that murders install jobs.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go and sit on the install job and won't do it. I just like sit there and entertain the client and just communicate. the technicians know all I'm doing is just watching their efficiency
Yeah.
and see how many times I go into the van. And I'm hanging out with them, getting them drinks and getting all the other stuff. But that's what I'm doing. I'm watching to see how many times I get to the truck.
Yeah, it's always, this is my husband's classic, this is going to be a hard one. And then like at 11:30, he's like, yeah, we're done.
We're wrapping up. Just
Oh, this is going to be a hard one. He's like, it was. I'm like, I'm sure it was, but they're just efficient. And I think what a gift, actually. I should also mention our David's son, my stepson, is our lead installer.
Okay. So true
It's like a
family.
true family.
It
Yeah.
really is.
That's
It really
awesome.
is. And of course, he's been trained by his dad as well. And so, you know, there's no nothing out here that there's always a job to be done. There's
Yeah.
always something. You know, and David knows that too, because the faster and more efficient you get it done without callbacks,
Right.
the more money you can make.
Mhm.
And so you basically control how much you're going to make, right? It's not up to me. It's up to you, because there's more work. When you
Yeah.
show up and you're ready to do another job, we'll get you another job.
Now,
So,
did your children feel any kind of pressure that they had to go into the business?
I don't think so. I know Haley didn't, obviously. I mean, and she really didn't see that for herself. You know, I think Aaron likes it. You know, my son Jack actually was with us for a little while as well. He's a welder now, so
that's cool.
obviously trades are where it's at for us.
Sure.
But I don't think so. But I think we feel the pressure to provide the opportunity for them.
Yeah, that's
and we know what can happen here.
if they're that's the same pressure that I feel, because when you have 4 kids and you ask them, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do the same thing you're going to do. I don't want you to do that just because I do it.
Right.
If you want to do it, I'm all for it. But
It's definitely worth opening the opportunity up for them, though.
I want them to
Just
try
as
it.
long as they don't feel like they have to do this
That's the thing. Yeah. I don't want them to feel like pressured that you got to go start a business. You have to, work on our business or anything like that.
You know, it's when you're young, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I would have never seen myself in HVAC. I would have
Same.
never believed that I would have had the opportunities that I have, or that I would be able to build a business, or that I would have an amazing, husband that's my partner, that, he can do this thing and I do mine, and we can provide service, and we can, be on the billboard at the football game because we get to sponsor, we get to give back to our community that way. Like, you can't even imagine that. And so I think the gift that we can give our kids is to say, you don't have to do HVAC, but you might be marketing HVAC, it might be business.
That's a good point. Yeah.
There's anything.
They can experience it. Because when I was coming through school, it was like I was asking everyone I could talk to, like, what do I do? Like, where do I go to school? Like, what do I do in this? And nobody really could give me an answer.
Right.
And I didn't have anybody that was, other than my grandfather who owned a landscaping company, and I knew I didn't want to lay sod the rest of my life, because he taught me that, because I did sod every summer on the golf course. I knew that was not my thing.
Right.
But nobody else I really knew that I could try out something like that. And that's my thing with my kids. It's like they can go work during the summer, and we pay them and everything else. But like one of them did a church job this summer that he was just doing new construction every day. He was going to this church job, and he was like, I know that I don't like duct work and a tall attic,
But listen, that's great. Okay, so sometimes jobs are about finding out what you don't like.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. My son Jack, it wasn't for him in that it was, we put him in a service truck with a really great teacher, service technician, but it was different every day.
Yeah,
and
not
it's
consistent.
Almost like, drinking from a fire hose. And he was like, it's too much for me. But he loves the trades. So then he went into welding school, went through school, and he's like, I love it. It's amazing. So, I mean, I think there's so much that we can give them, and not just to say the trades are where it's at. There's a lot of opportunity. Go try it. The other side of that is even just the negotiating how much you're going to get paid.
Oh, that experience.
It's a great life skill to have.
It really is. And it's
something you don't get taught enough of.
We don't, because we know the value of what the trades should be, right? And so he's been going through that where, he was at one job, he got offered something, and I said, son, do you realize that that's the same amount of money and no PTO? So that's actually less than what you're making right now. Yeah. You don't think of it that way when you're 20.
Exactly.
But when you have parents that are in the industry that are able to help you with that lesson. But you learn it now instead of learning it when you're 40 or 50.
Yeah.
and
That that with retirement,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
the things that my parents didn't know to tell me
Mhm.
that now, like, we've already started with our kids and we're talking to our kids about whole life insurance and becoming your own bank and all this other stuff. And it's like, man, I wish my parents would have told me all that stuff. But
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the power of these events, because I think coming here and I think there's 400, 450 some attendees, which is
Yes.
way up from what it was even last
yeah,
year.
double.
The different facets of the trade.
Yeah.
Because people think, well, I'm in a truck, I don't need an office, I don't do something else. But
Right.
there's marketing, there's manufacturing, there's software, there's so many different components that make the trade what it is. This is one
Sure.
trade. There's
Yeah.
so many great trades, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
welding and stuff like that, that just getting out there and exposing yourself to a little bit makes a connection.
Sure.
Make a connection with someone who knows someone else in a different trade, and eventually you'll find something that you really
Yeah.
latch onto.
Well, and that you don't have to go to college. There's
That's a big one.
it-
That's like
That's
a
a
cool,
big,
that's a
that's a big
shocker for a lot of
conversation
people.
in my house. I'm very like, if you don't want to go,
It is. Well,
I'm
listen,
cool. Like,
here's the thing: you don't have to go when you're 18. It doesn't mean that.
That's a
you
good point
never
too. That's a good
go.
point.
Okay, so how about you get in and you do a trade for a little while, or you do a job for a little while, and then you find out what you don't like, and maybe then it shows you what you want to go to college for.
yeah, do you like working with your hands? Do you like working in an office?
Right.
You can very easily figure out in the first year after high school that
So,
you like to go this path or this path. Now you can figure out, okay, now I should go back to school or should do something else.
hey, and what about if you go to work for a company who wants to pay for your college?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
those out there as well. So I think to your point, coming to events like this, it's just honestly about the networking. Like the content is great.
It can be found anywhere on the internet nowadays,
right.
but it's the delivery of it and the
Well, the
networking.
networking, the encouragement, like this has been just such a positive event. It's everybody's just loving on each other, and it's just so positive as you walk around and talk.
Yeah, you don't have people
Sure.
beating you up over little things stuff
Right.
like that.
But there's also accountability that comes out of that, because as a female owner, I've connected with other women here who are like, we're going to get together again outside of this, and we're going to do this. We're going to pool our resources so that if you have somebody on your team that's good at this, and I have somebody that's good at that, we're going to get together and just take over everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can do that by Zoom, but being in, being able to sit down
In
together
person,
and have
yeah.
that conversation, there's just so much value in that. And that's really what this organization has done. Same thing with Lady Titans.
Mhm.
We didn't have those groups, and now we do. And so there's always an answer.
It's cool. It's great to because Julie, she's in those groups,
Mhm.
and she'll show me post every now and then, and the Zoom calls that y'all get on, and some of them I'm like, exit stage right, I'm not in, or this
Right.
is not for me, and then other times I'm like, she'll call me in there, so they're talking about this, and I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Sure. Well, and I think it also helps people in your organization see the bigger picture too, right? We are not just an HVAC company in Charleston, South Carolina. We might be somewhere else one day.
Yeah.
We're positioning ourselves so that somebody sees what we're doing and we can help them or they can help us. Situation that we went through with our last company, the networking is what helped us get through that and get where we are now. People in the industry that had our back,
Yeah.
When we didn't know what the next step was going to be, they were there to say,
That's cool.
here's what you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
And they're still there. They're still cheering us on to hold us accountable. And, when I say what our goal is for next year, and they're like, double, right? And that's
That's
real,
too easy.
because it will be those people that will see you at an event and go, well, what did you do?
Yeah.
And that's what you need in this industry. And I don't think, not that I've been in lots of different industries, but you see what's going on. I think there's something special about what's going on in our industry, and just the willingness to share and the willingness to help everybody be better. And I think that kind of goes back to the raise your prices thing, right?
Mhm.
Because if everybody is competing at the same level or
Exactly.
a high level, it makes us all better.
Yeah.
What makes it really difficult is when you feel like, affordable is the best way to go about this. you can be affordable, but you're giving away a skill that other people don't have, and you're devaluing it for everybody.
That's exactly right.
So,
Yeah, know your value.
Yeah,
100%.
so being cheap doesn't mean that's good for the. I know you think you're doing a win for the homeowner, but you're not.
you're not. You're honestly not. So, and you don't think about those kinds of things with, our companies. Like we're supporting families. This is not about owners get rich quick. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of money to be made, but I look at it like, how many families can I help them change their life?
Yeah.
How many people can we bring in that that great insurance, that have
Buy a house.
buy
Yeah.
buy cars, send their kids to school, take great vacations. That's what this is all about. At least it is for us.
I agree, 100%. Stephanie, we really appreciate you hanging out with us,
Thanks for having me.
taking time, because
Especially
you're
the morning after the gala.
yeah, you're taking time
Heard you were
out
out
from the
late
event.
last night.
Yeah,
I love
So I
it.
appreciate you coming in early this
it's been a
morning.
great
with
time.
us.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
If anybody has any questions, can they connect with you like on Facebook or?
Please do. Stephanie Postell, and we're Anchor Heating and Air in Charleston, South Carolina. Love for you to follow us on TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heating and Air LLC. We're having fun with that. And if there's anything I can give as blind piece of advice, you should be on TikTok for your company, because recruiting wise,
Oh, that's a good point.
if you want to talk about that there's no talent out there and you can't find them, it's because they're on TikTok all day.
Well,
Mhm.
and this is new.
That's me.
I have a TikTok account. And Church he sends me TikToks all
I
the
do.
time.
There you go.
And I never really sit in there and I do the scrolling in the feed. But he was here at this event. I think we're looking for food or something. He's like, "I'll just TikTok it."
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, "What?" Like, you mean Google it?
No.
No, TikTok it.
No, we TikTok it.
That's right.
That's fine.
But for our industry, that's where the technicians are. So, and a little quick story that we're on TikTok, and just 2 days ago, a technician from another company tracked my husband down in Home Depot and said, "What is up? You're always on my For You page. Do you want me to work for you?" And he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
maybe.
Actually,
Yeah.
Maybe. I
let's
do.
have a conversation.
That's right. So definitely, you hate to be on camera. You hate to do all those things.
Yeah, I definitely have a face for radio, so it's, I don't know all
I don't know why we got the cameras.
that. Right. Thank you again for hanging out with us. Good to see you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.